How solid is Vladimir Putin's grip on power now?
Well, that's the other side to this story, is that even though Prigozhin has apparently completely backed down on his insurrection, Putin has come out of this looking much weaker. He had an insurrection, an armed insurrection that was pretty much on the verge of succeeding in challenging certainly the leadership of the Russian Ministry of Defense, if not Putin directly. And it happened during his presidency on his territory, and he had to rely on Lukashenko to solve it for him whilst he went off to Valdai, another location in Russia. So he was seen to leave Moscow. That's very different from, if you recall, Zelensky at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, where he said, "I don't need a ride, I need ammo." So I think that Putin has come across a much weakened president. There will be competitors circling to see any moments of weakness. If the Ukrainians do well in this counteroffensive, then I think his days are numbered very quickly.
Let's take a different approach to this, Malcolm, for a moment. Could this just be a clever ploy by Vladimir Putin to garner public support ahead of an election next year and to lure Ukraine into a false sense of security?
Look, I'm hearing those sorts of conspiracy theories going around on social media discussion groups and so forth. I don't think it's legitimate. I think that Putin has definitely come out of this looking weaker, not stronger. Certainly in the eyes of the people that matter, which is not the Russian people, it's the Siloviki and the oligarchs, the people around Putin that keep him in power. So I can't see that sort of theory of why he'd concoct this plan with Prigozhin as credible.
I mean, Putin, the reason why I think that's possible is because Putin, as we know, is as wily as a fox. And it would surprise me if he didn't see this coming, this kind of uprise coming within his own country.
Well, yes, but then again, intelligence agencies have been known to stuff up in the past and miss, clear things. I mean, Western intelligence organizations failed to see the end of the Soviet Union coming.
Yeah.
So I think that we can't assume that he would have known this was happening. It did emerge very quickly on the weekend and caught everyone by surprise. I think that there is some indication that maybe Western intelligence agencies knew that maybe something was in the wind, but there's no guarantee that the FSB would have known.
There's an element of be careful what you wish for, isn't there, Malcolm? If Putin was to step aside, who replaces him? Probably someone even more right-wing.
Well, he certainly wouldn't step aside. I think more like pushed out a window. But I think that, yes, you're right. You would get someone that far more hardline nationalist than Putin. There's no alternative leadership to Putin that is willing to embrace a liberal democratic system and return towards good relations with the West. All the potential contenders, Patrushev, Prigozhin himself, various different others, are all hardline nationalists that actually want to take a more harder approach to the war in Ukraine than even Putin has done. And I think the worry would be that you would get someone in the Kremlin that is really willing to take more risks, including potentially with nuclear weapons.
Well, that was the point, yeah. Someone more willing to press the nuclear button. That's a worry.
That has to be a worry. And certainly over the weekend, that was my concern, that if this had proceeded and you actually had fighting in the streets of Moscow and Putin's power threatened, that he might actually do that. And of course, Russia is a nuclear weapon state. If you have a civil war in a nuclear weapon state, the issue of positive control of nuclear weapons, how to ensure that they're not used without authorization, really comes to the fore.
And I'll close here, just quickly here, Malcolm. And do we find now that Western leaders, all of a sudden faced with that prospect, may well fold behind Vladimir Putin now and support him to keep him there because he's better than the alternative?
No, because they know that if they back off from supporting Ukraine, that will only embolden Putin. So he will take more of Ukraine, and he may very well then threaten NATO directly. So backing off and giving Putin a lifeline is not an option.
All right, fascinating to see how this plays out. Malcolm Davis, thanks as always for your time.